I want to really bring it to the union, because the reason we have a union is that the union should express the feelings and the intentions of the students. And if the students feel that the union is not doing its job, that's why we end up with such issues like there are students, that the body as a union is not doing its job and its voice is not as loud as the students feel it should be, and the students then take matters in their own hands. So I asked a question: what is your stance concerning the riot?
Yeah.
In line with the recent happenings at the highest learning institution in the nation, it is inevitable that there are many questions running through the minds of the student populace. In these times of uncertainty, the students need clarity, and this clarity must come. From Uleapa PT to the water escapade to matters of the righteous behavior orchestrated by the students, commonly called Umuseru, which brought about the destruction of property and the looting of shops, as we saw incidences of moments like Baby Girl,
Baby girl. Yeah.
and Spider-Man. These times have brought panic in the eyes and in the hearts of the students. Today on CBU Unplugged, I host the man with the answers to these questions, the interim president of the Kubusu Student Union, Mr. Edgar Hussein Churu.
Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Edgar, to begin with, what does the word interim mean, or what is your role as interim president? What is, because most students come to ask, what does interim mean? Is he also president? Is he a political leader? What does interim mean to the student, as to the student body as a union?
Well, first of all, that's a very interesting question, because I think the major problem as regards maybe people, students knowing about the interim, I think the major problem comes from the apathy that students have. Because I should simply say, amongst the entire CBU population, only a quarter of them even know about the Guild Constitution itself. So the interim president is a feature or a creature of the Guild Constitution itself, because what happens is that in the fourth term of in the fourth week of the third term, you have what we call dissolution. That is where the executive and SRC are all dissolved. So in the meantime, from July, that should be the third week of July, up to January, the last week of January, you need what we call a caretaker government.
Okay.
So this caretaker government is headed by the interim president. So the interim president, to some extent, almost has the same powers as the one who is elected. The only difference, or I should simply say the major difference, is that he doesn't have a full cabinet. Because under normal, the cabinet ministers that an elected president has that should be from 10 to 13, because there are more portfolios.
Okay.
But as regards the interim government, you only have the prime minister, you have the minister of housing, you have the finance minister, and other three committee members. So for those who don't know about the interim position, the interim president is the president. And surprisingly, we run for the same period as the actual elected president.
Okay.
Because you see, the elected president will run from January, okay, up to July. Or I should simply say February up to July. Then the interim president will be in office from July up to January the following year. So to some extent, it's almost like 6 months each.
Yeah.
Yes. So basically, we're simply a caretaker government. Our main task is to help or to transition from the outgoing executive to the newly elected executive, and that should be in February.
Okay. Okay. So in short, you are at this moment the people for the task, and you are the people responsible for the cries of the student populace.
Yes, at the moment, we are simply the custodians of the students, I should simply say, the voice of the students. So I'm pretty sure almost each and every single student knows the government of Brighton Galamika, the former Kubusu president. Yes. So the same tasks that Brighton Galamika and his executive were given, that is the same mandate we have right now.
Okay. I think I've already spoken to one of your your subordinates, David Msakanya, I think your vice
My
president,
vice
and
president.
he has alluded of the different tasks that you guys are bestowed with.
Mhm.
So to just get the ball rolling, what is your stance? Because recently we've had a lot of commotion at the mighty Copperbelt University. One such issue is the lack of water, and which has led to even a bigger fiasco, we should call it, that unfortunately the school experienced the riot and all those things. But firstly, before we even get to that point, to the main chunk of that, what is the stance of the union when it comes to the problems that the students are facing, basically in light and in vision of the water crisis?
All right. I think the stance of the union in general, first of all, has always been clear. I think the major idea behind unionism at the Copperbelt University has always been to represent the needs of the students. We have a population of over 13,000 to 15,000 students, and they all can speak at once. Not each and every single student can go directly to management and speak on their behalf. No wonder we end up having a union who will be able to bargain and speak on behalf of the students. So our stance is the same as it's always been. We speak on behalf of the students. The views that the students have are collected in one and they're presented before management. We bargain for them. We make sure that their interests are respected and they are known. So, if to answer it in light of the recent events, most especially as regards the water situation, immediately we got communication from Kana Water that there wouldn't be water. We communicated with the student populace as early as I think the message was received around 20 hours,
Okay.
and we were notified saying on Sunday, the following day, we wouldn't have water from 8 to, should be 20 hours. Then we immediately engaged the student populace. We communicated with them and we told them saying there will be a water cut. But in the meantime, we're going to provide water bowsers. I'm pretty sure we know what water bowsers are.
Yeah.
We will provide water bowsers for the sole purpose of catering for your various needs, for drinking and for washing, and these are the dates. So as promised, we prepared a water bowser which was in campus as early as 13 hours. So the major idea behind providing a water bowser is for it to be in an interim measure. Yeah, because students definitely won't manage having to wait for water. So as we prepared the water bowser, there was also, I'm pretty sure you're aware of the reticulation project.
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
the
yeah,
boreholes.
yeah,
Yes. So the government of the Republic of Zambia recently donated 3 boreholes.
yeah.
So amongst the 3 boreholes, and I'm pretty sure most of the students don't know, one of them was found dry, didn't really have water.
Okay.
Whilst the other 2 were functioning properly. So the management tried as much as possible to chlorinate the water to ensure the water is safe for drinking. But the major problem why it was not actually connected to the pipes was because the the number of hostels we have is quite great, and the 2 boreholes were not sufficient for that particular time. So what we need is a booster pump that will be able to pump water up to the hostels and up to the ablution blocks.
Okay.
And at the same time, we thought it wise as an interim measure to ensure that, irrespective of that project not being 100% done, students can still go there and fetch water. And I'm pretty sure you saw most of the students fetching
Yeah.
water from there. Yes. So not only do we have those 2 boreholes, we also have one behind the School of Engineering.
Okay.
There should be a borehole there, and students are able to fetch water from there. So we communicated this with the student populace, but our emphasis was mainly on the water bowsers because they come at a certain point.
Okay.
We usually put a bowser by K Block car park.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So that was communicated to the student populace, and it was only after Sunday, I should simply say Sunday in the evening, when I got a call from one of the engineers in Kana. So they told us saying the project or the problem they were having was quite, I should say, great, and they needed some time in order to fix it. So I'm pretty sure most of the students are aware. If you follow the Kana page, there was a fault with the transformer that pumps water. So there's a transformer at Wolangilido treatment plant, which I think it holds about 5 pumps. So the pumps are run by a transformer, which at the fault, it needed to be replaced.
Okay.
So we communicated with the student populace again, and we notified them saying, it will take a while. Then we provided 2 other water bowsers the following day. That was on a Monday. That was, I think, a few hours before the riot.
Okay.
A few hours before the riot, we provided 2 water bowsers.
Okay.
So one was by K Block, then another needed to supply the lecturer's compound because the lecturers also wanted water, definitely. And there are some boarding houses right near the lecturer's compound, which were also provided with water because they needed water. They're students as well. So yeah, we communicated that with the student populace, and most of them, or a number of them, almost all of them were aware. We sent our messages through Facebook, we sent our messages through WhatsApp, and we did communicate this. And the sole purpose of us doing that was for us to represent the needs of the students. We urged them and we understood their cry. But the biggest problem, I should simply say, their concern was the ablution blocks.
Okay.
So we were in connection with management, trying as much as possible to find an interim measure that would cater for the situation in the ablution blocks.
Okay.
And sadly, we ended up having the riot.
Okay, so just to dwell on that more, it is to the attention of most of the students that indeed, as you've spoken of the measures that you put in place, I feel, and I think this is a general, it's a consensus feeling for most students, that those measures were to a degree too minimal for the population at CBU. If I'm not mistaken, just its general population is about 11,000 students plus, and even those residing in campus and those who just visit campus for one or two things. Do you not feel those measures, even though were effective, you brought them in time, do you not feel they were insufficient for the cry of the students? Because if you've been to the way that the sitting arrangement or living arrangement of most of the boarding houses and the hostels in campus, you'll find that the people who are 8, 9 people in one room, and the ablution blocks, maybe 7, 8 rooms are using one ablution block. And in that instant, and for the entire, I presume more than 48 hours, there was no proper supply of water. Don't you think this deficiency is what agitated the students to a degree that they felt that the union was not doing enough and we could take things in our own hands?
All right. So before I try to answer your question, what do you think would be something that is more than minimal as regards the situation?
Okay.
Personally?
So as it's already, we have to understand this is a periodic problem.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that always happens,
Okay.
and it's inevitable.
Okay.
So what I've noticed is, and this is a mindset of most students,
Mm-hmm.
is that the union most of the times has been reactive, not proactive.
Okay.
So you've been reacting to things, not doing the things, not putting sustainable measures that will be implemented in the long run. It's the same thing for most of the things I've seen. You're trying to solve the problem when the problem arises,
Okay.
and not putting solutions at an early stage, that even the moment we reach that stage, we already have a sustainable plan. If you've not noticed that this year at CBU has enrolled more students than ever before, and the number of students in CBU has increased just by the first years, and the residing students there. So if the number of students has increased and the structure of CBU itself has not increased, but the number of students has increased, why should we not put sustainable measures that will run even next year? Because inevitably we'll have this challenge again, and it's the same thing with power and all those things. So why is the union being reactive and not proactive?
And I'm going back to my question, saying, can you give me one example of a measure that is more than minimal as regards the water situation?
So I as standing for the students, that is why we put you people in charge.
Okay.
Yes. So at the end of the day, what you people as we have to understand that you're really a political body, even though you guys are interim, but the nature of you guys is a political body, and you assure us things as the students, and we are to give you checks and balances where we can, and to make sure that things are in line. So this is not only for you as interim, but even for the regime that is to come. They have to understand that the students don't want temporal measures; they want permanent measures that are not reactive but proactive. As you talked about the Bowsers, do you really think for the number of students at CBU 2 is enough?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Today is the 25th, 26th of July.
Okay.
Do you know when the interim president was interim executive was ushered in?
If my knowledge serves me right, it's not very long ago, because I think I heard something of that nature.
Can you guess how many days or weeks?
You can help me with that one.
We've been in power for only 1 week.
Okay.
It's only been a week. And I do understand your concern, But if you are going to saying this is something that has been recurring, it presumes or presupposes saying it's been us from the start. But nonetheless, since it's Okubusu, I will take the responsibility. Okay. The major reason to why we only resorted to water bowsers immediately was due to the period of time that we were given. That was the only recourse we could have had. There are major products which are, I should simply say, are in the pipe right now as we speak, which can actually go as well, which can go to the extent of actually sorting out this water problem entirely. Because yesterday we had a stakeholders meeting with Nkana Water, we had a stakeholders meeting with the officer in charge, Riverside Police Station, and other stakeholders as well. So the major idea there was to discuss any interim measures we would bring forth in order to curb this big problem. I get your concern as regards the students' population on campus. I should simply say on campus we should have about 2,100 spaces, and obviously with the squatting situation, obviously we have about 6,000 in total. So definitely the situation at CBU is more dire than it could be in these other areas, because these are units and houses. Then at CBU we are all together, I should simply say so. So part of the suggestions that have been brought forth by many students is the introduction of drums. I'm not so sure if you're acquainted with this, but most students have been suggesting, oh, why can't we just put drums in the ablution blocks? The only problem is CBU students are not people you can actually trust with drums. Okay, and you can take judicial notice of this. You know what I mean. CBU students are not really people you can trust with drums, because the drums might actually just end up making the situation worse. Okay, but maybe drums can be introduced as an interim measure only when water cuts. Then when water cuts, we bring forth those drums as an interim measure, but not to have the drums in the ablutions 24/7. Because students might end up having to make the water dirty, then we might start having issues of cholera or these other outbreaks. But as we speak, in the meantime, the wardeners got in touch with the cleaning company, and we've put some vessels in most of the toilets, so that for those toilets which do not really have enough water, people are able to use a bucket, and using those vessels, they can make sure that the ablutions are clean. Then as a long-term project, there's the idea of ensuring that we introduce industrial water, which is, I should say, minimally treated. So industrial water can be directed solely for the purpose of the ablution. Then the treated water can be used for drinking, can be used for washing. So if we can do that, it would be better in the sense that we're going to have water that is specifically for the ablution, and we're also going to have water that will be specifically for the, I should simply say, your drinking and these other things. So this is something that we've actually been thinking about, and at the same time, we've been engaging in Kana. Yesterday, we had the privilege of having Professor Chisale, who's the Vice Chancellor, Academic Affairs. So he brought forth a number of suggestions for Kana. So there's a Nkana water plant right behind us here. So we brought forth a suggestion. Since there are two parallel lines, there's one for, is it Nkana water this side? Sorry. Yes. Oh, Bulangilido has a line, and so does Nkana water. So suggestion was brought saying, oh, in an event that the Bulangilido pipeline is not being sufficient, we could actually tap some water from the Nkana so that we could have water at CBU throughout. So these are most of the suggestions we're bringing forth, and we're trying as much as possible as a union to ensure that before the newly elected government is ushered in, we set forth these projects so they can simply tap in from what we've left forth. The concerns of the students are not something that we are alien to. I'm a student myself. I'm affected as well with what is going on. So we're trying as much as possible to ensure that we can do the best we can. So for now, what we have is water bowsers. Definitely they're coming in. We have boreholes, the reticulation project. Yes, and very soon the pump will be installed and to be connected to the main system. And we also have the interim measure of introducing the vessels in the ablution blocks, so that every student who needs water can simply use a bucket. And
to those who do not know, we must come to an understanding that it is because of this cries by the students, because of the water shortage, and maybe other yet untold stories, that we had an unfortunate incident that the students took matters into their own hands, I should say, that in the late hours of Monday to Tuesday, there was a riot. So as interim president, I want first for us to delves into this matter with a very holistic approach, not as a political matter, but you being a student as well. Um, we can try and decipher this matter, because I've seen the students were very agitated. If you had you are in campus at the moment at the time, and it brought about so many issues, and it did seem, because a majority of the students were part of that move, it emanated, or it reflected as if it was a cry for most of the students, that the body as a union is not doing its job and its voice is not as loud as the students felt it should be, and the students decided to take matters in their own hands. So I asked a question: what is your stance concerning the riot?
All right. I have a problem with how you phrased this sentence, mainly
Okay.
so because to some extent it's like you're justifying the occurrences.
Okay.
I don't think there is any sort of problem that would ever justify how the students acted. I don't know if you've been at the sites where most of the properties was damaged. It's not the first time CBU students are rioting. Not at all. Students have been rioting from as early as, I don't know, 2015. People have been rioting, never to the extent of going to a person's shop, an innocent person's shop, and looting. If you say students decided to take the matters in their own hands, maybe the proper approach would be, oh, they decided to engage management there on their own personal basis to argue for their concerns. But the only problem that came in is you saw the extent of the damage.
Okay.
If you were actually at the scene, you would see how most, don't say all the students,
Okay.
how most of the
The
students
students.
were acting.
Yeah.
To some extent, you would argue that the students almost went mad.
Yeah.
Because if you see what had happened was, it's something that is quite shocking, honestly. It's something that is honestly quite shocking. You're a law student. You know exactly how protest should be made, isn't it, right?
Yes.
You ought to seek a permit from the police, don't you?
Yeah.
If students wanted a proper dialogue, what we could have done is we could have simply engaged, sought a permit from the police, and had marched all the way to ZNBC. We could have spoken to the media saying, okay, this is a problem we are facing, and as a student, we have our concerns. There's nothing that can justify how the students acted. So many people were really, I should simply say, affected by what had happened. Okay, so to argue and to saying, oh, the students felt the union did not work, or the union was not working, therefore they decided to take matters in their own hands. That was not taking matters in their own hands.
Okay.
That was quite barbaric, I should simply say. Yeah. That was complete, I should say, disorder, honestly.
Animosity.
Honestly, because it was quite sad. And I don't think I'm the only person who actually does condemn how everything played out. Because most of the people who actually saw exactly what had happened, definitely they're all, I should simply say, disappointed. Because at the end of the day, it all ends up in being collective responsibility. You get it? So if the perpetrators are not identified, then what you end up having is, we saw what happened last year. I'm not sure if you were there last year, but we had the similar occurrence at the same time in July as well. Students rioted and as came, and each and every student, irrespective of you being on campus or at the boarding house, had to pay. So definitely, I understand students were agitated and they had concerns, but that was so, I should simply say, unjustified in view of the actual problem. Okay. Students were communicated to, this is a problem, this is a solution. In the meantime, then they ended up rioting and looting. No, definitely unjustifiable.
So I would like to raise my thoughts on something you alluded on earlier, that indeed the body has always been a voice for the students. And you said that in time immemorial, students have been rioting, and this is a common custom among students. So isn't it that, as you said, the union is a voice, but if the students are not feeling the impact of that voice, don't you think that's what led to the agitation? Even though the way in which it was carried out might not be the correct manner, and their conduct indeed is not in any way applauded in any regard. But I want to really bring it to the union, because the reason we have a union is that the union should express the feelings and the intentions of the students. And if the students feel that the union is not doing its job, that's why we end up with such issues like the riot. So you as interim president, and you've been at the school for a number of years, have you not seen that the union has not been a voice enough, that it's not expressing the desires of the students? Can you give light on that matter?
All right, I definitely can't speak on behalf of the previous leaders, okay, because around that time I was also part of the students airing out these views. Yeah. But nonetheless, I personally have never been part of the students who have ever rioted, because I've always thought the best way to actually talk about things is dialogue. We're in 2024, for God's sake. Come on. We're not living in those olden times when people used to argue or fight in an event that there was a dispute. So I get your concern in the sense that, and I actually spoke about this already, and I said the relationship between the union and the student populace is quite important because it will in fact determine how students act in the long run. But nonetheless, there is only so much a union can do, honestly. What we're going to do is we'll get your views, we'll put them together, and we're going to provide them before management. And we're going to be strict even as we go to management and say, okay, this is our position, we need it attended to. Having regard to the fact that the Copperbelt University is one of the biggest universities in Zambia, our voice as a student body actually does matter. It goes to a very great extent. So, to some extent, I will take up the blame and I say, uh, as a union, it is imperative that we represent the needs of the students in a very effective and proper manner. And at the same time, there is an obligation on the student body to trust the union. Okay? Because at the end of the day, we talk about mutuality. I represent you, then you trusted me. And at the same time, you ought to give me enough time in order for me to implement my promises. Because there's no way I come into the government a week, just within a week, you make a demand and you expect the demand to be met within a week. It doesn't work like that. Not at all. So if you are going to apportion blame, then blame has to be apportioned from as early as the time when we had the union. Because as the interim government, it's only been a week. So you make your concerns known to me. Oh, Mr. Interim President, this is a problem. And I tell you, so, okay, no problem. I'll engage management. As I'm engaged in management and as we are preparing or trying to bring about solutions, then you go ahead and you do that. That is unjustifiable. Okay, so definitely students must be represented by the union, but the students should be able to give the union enough time for these problems to be implemented. So this is not a problem that CBU was facing alone. Even Kamfisa itself never had water. The hospital never had water. At no point did you see people at the hospital rioting. At no point did you see the prisoners at Kamfisa rioting, standing up, saying, "Oh, we're going to do this and that." So that was unjustifiable. I honestly think there's so many other reasons that led to the riot aside from the water. Okay, maybe students were thinking about. I'm not so sure. I don't want to. I should simply say speak, or I don't want to put words in their mouth, or I don't want to assume anything. But the reason of the water alone is honestly not
A bit far-fetched.
Yeah, far-fetched, I should say.
Yes. So the union is going through some difficult times. So as we've seen, there were so many things that happened. Stores were looted. To those who do not know, a property was destroyed, and there are some rumors that some students have been apprehended, and various things are going on at the school. And indeed, it is a time of uncertainty, and most students are in anguish and in some sort of disarray, trying to find out what's going on and how do we move from here. You alluded on an issue of surcharge, and if there will be another one this year as well. Before I even get into that, I want to ask a question. Now, where does this put the image of the union in terms of management? Because management as well has trusted you guys to be the voice of the students. So where is the union really a credible body that the management can trust, that instead of, as you said, talking to individual students, we can talk to the union and the union will give us the needs of the students? And I have noticed, and it is the concern of most students, that the union really does not, I think this is a general understanding and knowledge to most students, that the union does not really represent most of the students. It over the years has become a popular, what can I call it? A club for the intellectuals or the students who have taken politics who've taken politics to heart, and really only expresses the desires of a particular segment in the CBU populace. So what can you allude on that, and how does this riot put, or what image does it give the union? Can the management still trust the union to be a body that will represent the needs of the students, and so that management and the students can always work together? What is your thought on that?
All right, I definitely can speak for management on this one, but the only thing I could simply say for now is that even our few engagements over this short period of time with management have been quite fruitful, in the sense that we've been able, over a short period of time, we've been able to create a very good relationship with management. And I should simply say, and if you watched the interview from yesterday, management is quite confident in the union that we'll be able to convey the messages from the students, because they come through us, directly to management, and we'll do the same as regards management. So for now, I would simply say, on behalf of the interim government, saying, yes, management definitely has a trust. So on the aspect of the students having trust in the interim government, I'm pretty sure for now, this is something we're going to build together. So even as we proceed, I think I remember you mentioned saying, oh, there's uncertainty. Where are we right now? Oh, the detained students, the issue of surcharge. So let us not speak about surcharge yet. As long as the management has not spoken about surcharge, let us not talk about it. But what I can talk about for now is the issue of the detained students. As a union, it is imperative and it is our job to represent them. So for those who have been detained, we've tried as much as possible to ensure that most of them are already in touch with their parents. We've tried, I've been in contact with most parents of the detained students, and I've ensured that most of them, the friends, are able to visit them. And we actually even managed to organize some food for most of them who hadn't been visited. So we visited some who had held at Busakile. We provided some food, provided some water. We got in touch with their parents, and they've been attended to. So as we speak right now, they are being kept at Riverside, and most of the parents are aware, and most of the parents are going there and checking up on them. So right now, as a union, we are looking forward to trying as much as possible to ensure that definitely what had happened was not something that anyone could be proud of. So we'll try as much as possible to ensure that as justice tries to take its course, we're also ensuring that due process is followed. At the end of the day, they are our fellow students. So we'll try to ensure that due process is followed, their needs are met, and if found wanting, then it's entirely not up to us.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, um, as we reach the end of this podcast and this interview, as we've already talked about the various issues and the current uncertainty that you have, I think, eloquently addressed, I want you to just share your last sentiments and where does the union stand and what are the hopes of the union in the coming days, because indeed it has been a week of so many happenings, and I know learning has not even yet fully resumed. If there are those who are learning, we give applause to that. But for most of the academic endeavors, they're still in a kind of standstill. So, what is your last sentiment, and what is the message as president, as interim president, as you stand for the union, and what is your thought, and what do you want the students to be aware of as we move in the coming days, as we approach our sessionals? I know there's a lot of panic, and students still go back to campus and study because a lot of students who've been talking about they feel unsafe. They don't feel campus is a safe place for them to continue their study pursuit. So, as president, as interim president, you and your executive, what is your thought as we conclude?
Okay. So generally, I think to sum it all up, I would simply say is the number of issues that are yet to be addressed. And as you know, we are going to the exam, I should simply say, period. We're preparing for exams soon, and there are so many issues that have to be dealt with or talked about. So first of all, we'll try as much as possible in order to ensure that we try as much as possible to make sure that even as management makes its decision in relation to whatever had happened on campus, we do represent the needs of the mass of the students, because there are a number of students who are not involved in whatever had occurred, because most of them stay at boarding houses. So this is something that we're making known to management and informing them, say, no, actually, as much as this did in fact occur, not each and every single student was involved. So even as collective responsibilities is brought forth, there should be some certain mitigating factors that will be able to actually mitigate the situation. Then at the same time, we will try as much as possible to ensure that we advocate for the students generally, because it's not only this issue. So there's an issue about late registration. There are issues that come, let's say, in relation to IDs, those who haven't gotten their IDs yet, and there are a number of issues. So my executive and I are not alien to most of these problems. We literally have a list of all the issues we have to address. Sorry. So before we actually go ahead and close school, these are matters that we are constantly engaging management with. I must say, for the past 1 week, each and every single day, I've been almost with the Professor Chisale. I've been with the Dean of Students every single day trying to advocate for the students. So, and if it has to be a message generally to the student populace, your needs are not alien to us. We, as the interim government, will try as much as possible to ensure that your needs are met. We are in constant communication with management, And at the same time, we've kept the ball rolling so that we can rebuild from whatever had happened in order to ensure that even as collective responsibility is brought forth, not each and every single student is actually affected in the same way. Because even as regards the levels of participation, they were entirely different. And I will also try to urge the student as a body altogether in order to ensure that do not resort to violence. There is a means and there's a proper, I should simply say, channel of communication. Our contacts are open 24/7. I have a ministry of about 8 people. You can get in touch with any of them, and through them, you can actually make your views heard. Violence does not sort anything. It has not sorted anything. The only thing the riot has done, it has tarnished the image of CBU. We could have organized a peaceful protest if that is what you wanted. We could have marched all the way to ZNBC. We could have spoken on behalf of the students. We could have sat down together through dialogue and brought about better measures. But the only thing that this has done is that it has tarnished our image. The Copperbelt University is known as the most innovative institution in Zambia as a whole. But what we are known for now is that we are now an institution for rights. So I'm urging you that in an event, the next time you have an issue, please get in contact directly with us. We are here to speak for you. We are here to advocate for you, and we're going to do it until the next government is elected. So that is simply a message I would like to urge, and I'd like to speak to all of you, saying all these concerns you are still having, we're going to speak for you and your needs will be met, and the water situation as we speak is being rectified.
So thank you, Mr. Edgar. So you heard it here first. The interim president has spoken and he's aired out his view, and his opinion has been heard. I pray and I ask that his message is clear. We've heard of the times of uncertainty and all the matters being addressed, and we continue to wait on management to make the decisions. And in this time, we urge the students to be calm and wait for the next directive. Mr. Edgar, we thank you.
Sure, thank you very much for hosting me as well.
Thank you very much.
Did you know that the structure and concept design of the Copperbelt University Riverside campus was inspired by a Canadian university? Copperbelt University had only 100 graduating students at its first ever graduation in 1992. But as of 2017, the average number of students graduating each year is 1,500.
Now, on today's podcast, we're actually going to focus on our Mama for the Week, who is none other than Enia Chipita. Enia Chipita is a fourth-year banking and finance student at the Copperbelt University Riverside campus, former Treasurer General of the Pentecostal Holiness Church CBU Fellowship. She was born and raised in Kamavaj, Kabompo district, but later moved to Kitwe. She originally wanted to pursue a career in journalism, which she had great passion for, but after passing her grade 12, it was seen fit by her family to pursue a career in banking and finance. Enia is currently running a booming and on-the-rise clothing business among her many endeavors. She desires to one day give back to her people back home in Kabompo by starting foundations that support vulnerable people in society. She desires to later pursue a master's in business administration, push her media work as a way to fulfill her passion for journalism. This has been Enia Chipita Unraveled, and she has been our Mama for the Week. Bye everybody, and catch you later on the Mighty Podcast.
Your name, from the